I think all of us as human beings kind of grapple with the existence of control. Is it real? Do we have enough? Do we have any? If we don't, who does? Are we okay with them having it? There's just so many questions. And for me, like, I have issues with authority and issues with self-control, issues with things that are out of my control, like the universe, you know, people dying, losing jobs, losing money, losing time, because it's the one thing, like, you just can't get back. And I didn't even realize time was such a commodity until probably this album taught me a lot. I didn't even realize it had been 4 years. Like, It's interesting. So control just kind of encompassed the way I feel about everything.
Everyone remembers where they were the first time they hit play on this record. I know I do. Fresh perspiration trickling from the edge of my hairline. I was waiting for a bus that was always late. My back was killing me from countless nights slept on a standard college twin XL, you know, those plastic mattresses. My carpal tunnel was acting up from some intense scrolling and social media sleuthing over a boy that would lie more than he would blink. And to top it off, my financial aid was all fucked up. My main priority this day, though, was figuring out how I was going to eat with no groceries and negative $37 to my name. I was exhausted emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And to be clear, I still am 5 years later. I mean, 25 is not that much different from 20 when you're broke. Like any good record should, it helped me forget about all of that, even if just for a moment. SZA's debut album takes us along an introspective ride, exploring the concept of control as a young 20-something-year-old artist. And in the end, she shares what she's discovered in the form of enticing lyrics, asserting that control is nothing more than an illusion. Released on June 9th, 2017, the project blew audiences away with its poetic storytelling, masterful genre bending, and a narrative people could really relate to. One that doesn't shy away from the vulnerable, ugly parts of our 20s. Being exploited, being broke as hell, dealing with shitty people, partying to pass the time, and seeking external validation. And I know people might not be expecting me to go there, but there's something about control that so effortlessly encapsulates a young adulthood dictated by the strict confinements of capitalism. Without always naming these things directly, SZA is rejecting this restrictive environment that class, race, gender, and other marginalizations create. It's so easy for us to enjoy and relate to these records because we believe SZA was struggling like us when she made them, which lends the work that much more credibility. In an oversaturated music market where many projects seem to lack any sort of cohesive messaging, the album stands out with what feels like a cinematic coming-of-age storyline for young Black girls, taking us through all the trials and tribulations of her early 20s. But even though it speaks to a young adult demographic, the album is very much enjoyed intergenerationally, okay? More than the messaging, she drew myself in and so many others with her sultry vocals, layered on top of hauntingly beautiful beats that transcend any one particular genre. Her list of influences ranges from jazz to hip-hop to rock to witch house to soul. SZA herself transcends vocal expectations, serenading the world with an untrained, unorthodox voice. Just 5 years after her debut album's release, her influence on rookie and veteran artists is undeniable, and it's no wonder why. Young artists love her work, and they want to emulate her sound and success with control. Her peers and predecessors are all vying for a SZA feature because they all understand her innate ability to deliver a hit. Control has spent a total of 270 weeks on the Billboard 200 chart, meaning since its debut, it has never left the chart, currently holding the record for the longest run of any Black woman's R&B debut. But her rise and time in the public eye hasn't always been all praise. SZA has faced her fair share of critiques, ranging from earnest to disrespectful. Her early performances often left a lot to be desired, where her lack of vocal training came through the most. She's been the subject of repeated draggings on Twitter, not only for her live performances, but for allegedly telling white lies throughout her career. That all aside, SZA's biggest retractors have often been men who don't like her lyrics, spewing nothing but misogynoir into the void. Her sophomore album might be the most highly anticipated sophomore project on the market right now, but judging by statements that both TDE and SZA have made, we may or may not ever get that follow-up we're yearning for. And honestly, that's okay. I personally can stream this project on repeat forever. So let's talk about how Control perfectly captured the cultural zeitgeist of the time, speaking to a generation and catapulting SZA to superstardom. My name is Jo, and this is With Nuance. If you enjoy dissections of this nature, help my channel out by hitting that subscribe button or consider contributing to my Patreon.
When did you know that you had it?
I don't think I've ever known that I had it. I still don't. I think I'm just trying to figure it out. I think all this is a process of growing. Like this isn't about like being like the #1 artist in the world. Like I want to grow. Like I want to evolve into something greater, something bigger than myself, where I'm at right now. And hopefully touch people along the way in the best way that I can.
Solana Rowe was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and raised in Maplewood, New Jersey. As a Jersey girl, I love reminding people how much talent comes from our state, okay? Whitney Houston, the Fugees, Queen Latifah, Sarah Vaughan, Dionne Warwick, Darkchild, Frank Sinatra. Heavy hitters only, okay? SZA attended Columbia High School, ironically the alma mater of Lauryn Hill as well, who I believe she shares many parallels to. Her interest in high school included gymnastics and cheerleading, experience that often comes through in her choreography. After high school, she attended a few colleges studying marine biology before deciding to step away from the nauseum of academia. Well, she actually says she was getting too high too often and flunked out, but basically same difference. She then picked up a lot of random jobs to sustain herself, eventually putting a lot of time into creating her own music. Within just a few years, she would happen to cross paths with Punch from Top Dog Entertainment, an independent hip-hop label, at an event where her boyfriend was working. Her music was passed on to him and he was impressed by what he heard, so he held on to her information. In October of 2012, SZA released her debut EP, See SZA Run. With just 7 songs, the project garnered a small online audience, particularly on Tumblr, as well as positive reception from publications like Complex and The Guardian. For it to be her first project, the quality is stunning. We get to hear SZA's signature style start to form, with her proclivity for vocal layering, ethereal melodies, heavy bass, and incorporating strange tones. It was here that she began dabbling with micro-genres like chillwave, cloud rap, and witch house. For the production, she worked with her neighbor at the time, and to put it plainly, they ripped a bunch of beats from the internet to create it. Coming out around the same time as Frank Ocean's Nostalgia and The Weeknd's The Trilogy, the project feels very of its time. Ironically, Solange's True EP was released only a few weeks after SZA Run, which utilizes many of the very same elements. If you listen to these projects back to back, the similarities are unmistakable. They almost act as a time capsule of that era. Those early 2000s were doing a number on all of us, much like the 2020s so far, and the girls couldn't stop making dissonant dance music primed for Tumblr. Her visuals and artwork for her EP similarly carried a collage, maximalist, art house aesthetic that perfectly encapsulates the sound. SZA is definitely a visionary through and through, okay? About 6 months later, SZA released her second EP in April of 2013, titled S, this time with 8 songs and producers on board. SZA has listed Stevie Nicks as one of her inspirations, and that connection is made clear on this project as she samples Fleetwood Mac's Everywhere on the song Castles.
Wish I was prettier, a little for you.
She also showcased her love for horror by sampling audio from the 1968 film Rosemary's Baby on her songs Terror Dome and Kismet.
I know that sounds crazy. You're probably thinking, my God, this poor girl is really flipped. But I haven't flipped, Dr. Hill. I swear, by all the saints, I haven't. There are plots against people, aren't there?
Yes, I suppose there are.
Well, there's one against me and my baby.
Come to my office tomorrow after 5 and we'll talk.
No! Right now.
Mrs. Woodhouse, I'm not at my office now. I'm home. I've been up since yesterday morning.
I beg you. I beg you. I can't stay here.
My office at 8 o'clock.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Oh, wait, Dr. Hill?
Yes.
My husband may call you and ask if you
I'm
can.
not going to speak to anyone. I'm going to take a nap.
Thank you.
S received even more widespread critical acclaim, pretty much putting her on the map when it came to underground alt R&B. Reggie Ugwu wrote for Billboard that SZA impressed with a polished yet emotionally raw sound that belied her relative inexperience.
Yo, peace and blessings. My name is the RZA from the almighty Wu-Tang Clan. I'm zoning in with my homegirl SZA. Self-savior, zigzag, ziggalar. Yeah, I think you could take that far, mama. You know what I mean?
It's hard to believe that this is like the debut album, right? Because we've been listening to you for years. And I kind of think like the cool kids always knew who SZA was from See SZA Run and, you know.
Damn, SZA, those were such weird times. Just different times. I never thought that it would get here or go here. It was more fun then because I was just like, I don't care. SZA Run and S, which just like I made those the day before I dropped those. I don't know, this is different. I cared in a different way.
Her work on S is what many theorize sealed the deal with TDE. Just 3 months later, she'd become the first woman signed to the label. Subsequently, her follow-up single Teen Spirit and EP Z would be her first release through the label. Z is an eclectic combination of genres like all of her projects before, but the songs on this project feel more fleshed out and confident than ever. I love Z. Child's Play, Warm Winds, Sweet November, and Green Mile have all gotten me through some things, okay?
Ripping the heads off all my Barbie dolls, tossed them to the side, kept the convertible. Warm winds on the space ride, and I call your phone on a late night. I recall your soul at a taste night.
Her fan base continued to grow following collaborations with other artists like Isaiah Rashad, Willow, Kendrick Lamar,
What do you
4-year hiatus she took between Z and Control, she would lend her songwriting skills to major pop stars. Rihanna's last album, Anti, actually opens with a track that she wrote, Consideration, a song that was meant to be on Control originally.
When I look outside my window, I can get no peace of mind. When I look outside my window, I can get no peace of mind.
That song was on my album. I wrote the whole song. I just gave it to her later on. I loved her. I love that she loved it. I worked hard as shit on that song. Carter and Ty made it from scratch. It was more like the first song that we ever did as a group that was like arriving at something that we attempted to arrive at.
She also wrote the iconic collaboration between Beyonce and Nicki Minaj, Feeling Myself. After getting off some cryptic tweets about wanting to quit music, fans were concerned that SZA's follow-up project A would never come. And they were sort of right, because SZA shook things up and began promoting her debut album titled Control.
This next song I wrote about a party that I went to for a boy for no fucking reason. I don't really party, but this house party seemed like, I'm gonna do this. So I bought mad weed, went to the party, because, you know, boys like weed, etc. I was really excited. Turns out he brought a girl to the party that I planned all this shit for. So basically, I went, I did not ever see him for the entire party. I smoked all the weed by myself and had a fantastic time. So the moral of the story is never go and do anything you don't want to do. Always bring your own weed and have a good time.
Why is it so hard to accept the party is over?
Leading up to Control's release, TDE pushed 2 singles off the album. In January of 2017, SZA released Drew Barrymore, which prompted major buzz. She also followed the release with a performance of the record on Jimmy Kimmel, and people were very intrigued.
Thank you for playing SZA, who is so awesome, and I Instagram me like we're like mouthing the words to her song.
Oh, that's interesting.
Called Drew Barrymore, which is crazy.
It's pretty crazy, right?
It's so crazy.
Is that the first time? That can't be the first time.
I don't know. I've seen weird things about me my whole life.
Yeah.
But that to me is like like the top.
Named after one of America's favorite child actresses, Drew Barrymore feels ripped from a big-budget movie soundtrack. The song is orchestral, a unique quality on the album filled with a lot of music that veers more towards synthetic electric production. Even so, it keeps its grit with lyrics that hit you just as hard as the other tracks on the album. The song perfectly encapsulates the feeling of being in your early 20s, just wanting to party and have a good time. The verses explore feeling lonely, let down, rejected, and wanting to just feel loved. And most importantly, it poses the question of why it feels so hard to grow and move on from certain situations or people. The chorus is so melodic, poetic, and tantalizing, with lyrics seeped in sexual innuendo. When asked why SZA named this song after Drew Barrymore, she boasts about her love for the roles that the actress tends to play.
I love her. She's amazing.
How did that love for her happen?
I think there was something about like her quirkiness, like I don't know, like her teeth were less than perfect, and like, but her smile was so beautiful. It just had so much energy, and like her laugh, I have like a belly laugh, and her and Cameron Diaz have like belly laughs that they're kind of goofy. It's kind of just like, what's going on? But it's just like, it's like uncontrollable. Like she was very like, in her time of like Nicole Kidman's and like the very aristocratic like white women that were just like, you know, very prim and proper and model-esque. She was just like a ball of energy and just very her. It was very inspiring. So when I think of like Never Been Kissed or like Ever After or Ivy. I don't know any of that.
And so you're a big fan of all of her films.
Yes. Anyone I've ever seen, yes. If I haven't seen it, then I can't speak.
The music video was directed by Dave Meyers, a director with an extensive music video and commercial resume. We follow her and her friends through a regular day for them, hopping on the subway, doing some laundry, and grabbing some food before ultimately ending up at another party. It's a cycle many adults and college kids find themselves in, when we're finally permitted freedom in ways we've never experienced. In April that year, she went on to release her second single, Love Galore, featuring Travis Scott, to rave reviews. For many fans, it was their introduction to SZA, including my own. It was the first song of hers to receive substantial radio play, and it's by far the most popular record on the album to this day. Like many of her songs, Love Galore is no different in feeling like a blend of SZA's favorite genres, making use of electric music, trap, and R&B elements. It's a versatile track guaranteed to make anyone feel good. The muffled, repetitive bass in combination with her crisp, clear vocals. The chorus is so simple yet infectious, the hallmark of many, many classics. If you listen to it just once, you won't be able to escape it for the rest of the day. The song's title is somewhat paradoxical given that there is no love to be found in the connections that she's singing about. She yearns for empty connections and casual hookups and is willing to pretend anything is love. This is also, to my knowledge, the first time that SZA openly spoke about dating women. Earlier this year, SZA responded to a fan's tweet that jokingly called her a lesbian with "they're right." There has been a lot of speculation around whether SZA was being serious, and I don't really think there's any reason to speculate. I feel like she said what she said, and she's been saying it, so I'm unsure where the confusion is coming from. Travis Scott's electronic vocals complement SZA's more airy approach in the best way. His verse acts as a response to SZA's attempts for a hookup, where he confirms there was never any love involved in their relationship anyway.
Why you bother me? Why you bother me? Why you bother me? Last time I checked, you were the one that left.
In the music video, Travis and SZA interact in intimate ways, though with such little affection. We get some contrasting imagery between the dark tones, bright butterflies, sultry lap dances, and then a reference to the classic Stephen King film Misery.
Why did you guys decide to go into like the Misery angle of the video?
Oh no. I'm sorry, Travis. I love Misery. And I love those movies. And I love Kathy Bates. That movie scared the shit out of me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I was really more about the butterflies. It was just more so I wanted a reason to juxtapose our worlds. Like, I think of him as a very, like, he mixes like this like dark seriousness, like ethereal quality, and that, which is like reminiscent of the way, like old me, where I was like more dark and ethereal and in that space. But I'm very bright right now in terms of just the way I feel. So I wanted to blend our worlds. Like, I love butterflies, but I'm still that person. Like, I'm still drawn to like mystery and like creepy things and things that go bump in the night.
Following the release of these two singles, the anticipation for her album was bubbling over. The expectations were high, and she exceeded every single one of them. Control debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 200 and hasn't left the charts since, a feat so few artists can make a claim to. The album also took the number 1 spot on the US Top R&B and Hip Hop Billboard chart, with it reclaiming that spot earlier this year following the release of Control Deluxe. The album would be supported by 5 more promotional singles, released with music videos as well in the following order: Doves in the Wind, Broken Clocks, Supermodel, The Weeknd, and Garden, Say It Like That. The album has since been certified double platinum, with each song on the album also currently certified gold or platinum, or in Love Galore's case, 5 times platinum. SZA would give her first performance at an awards show at the BET Awards just a few weeks after Ctrl's release, to admittedly mixed reviews. Some people were disappointed by her vocal performance, prompting the long-running jokes that SZA can't sing, but her mere presence on the main stage solidified her status as a rising star. Now, as a student and a true admirer of the art of vocal performance, I have to be unbiased here. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't hear or see the clear problems with SZA's performances in the beginning of her career.
I need you. I'm telling you, I'm writing this letter to let you know I'm really leaving it. Heard you got some new homies, got some new hobbies, even a new hoe too. Maybe she can come help you, or maybe she can come link you. After we're done, what's done is done. I don't want nothing else to do.
Her breath control was lacking, and overall, yes, the vocals were very much all over the place. Now, as I've already mentioned, SZA is an untrained vocalist, and while that can be a beautiful thing, it can also be very limiting, and she was hitting those limits even more so once her tour began. She struggled to perform songs in the same style as they were on her album, and she would eventually run into health issues with her voice, leading to her canceling shows. In a series of now deleted tweets, she claimed she permanently injured her voice. It's very clear, though, that SZA has been in good hands as of late when it comes to the nurturing of her vocal cords. She's obviously been working with a vocal coach, and I just love to see the improvement.
I'm writing this letter to let you know I'm really leaving, and no, I'm not keeping your shit. That you got some new homies, got some new hobbies, even a new hoe too. Maybe she can come help you, maybe she can come link you. After we're done, shit, what's done is done. I don't want nothing else to do with it.
Anybody can make beautiful music with their voice, but you have to know your strengths and have the proper training to access them. There are so many talented girls that are coming up right now that might not have the perfect vocals, but put them in the right environment to reach their full potential, and the girls will and can improve, okay? BET would go on to nominate her for 3 awards the following year, with her receiving the Best New Artist award in 2018. Her accolades didn't stop there, though, with her racking up nominations from the Billboard Music Awards, the MTV VMAs, the Soul Train Choice Awards, the AMAs, and pretty much every other possible organization that awards artists for their music. SZA was nominated for 5 Grammys that year, and in the Grammys' typical anti-Black fashion, she somehow didn't win not one award. Not one. In 2022, she would finally win her first Grammy alongside Doja Cat for their iconic collaboration, Kiss Me More.
That's my greatest fear, that if I lost control or did not have control, things would just, would be fatal.
The album crackles open like a staticky radio station, led by her mother's voice. From the first few seconds, she lends us a short phrase that foreshadows the recurring themes of the album: fear, control, adulthood, love, and relationships. Her mother and grandmother both act as narrators and guides through phone calls and voicemails, offering nuggets of wisdom on the tail ends and beginnings of songs. The recurring input is heartwarming, as we get to hear 3 generations of Black women be vulnerable, open, and loving with each other. It also adds to this feeling of cohesion in the project. While the narrated album has been done so many times before, notably on projects like The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, I do think Solange's A Seat at the Table was very influential in the reemergence of popularity in the R&B and hip-hop space, adding to the thoughtful writing writing and direction of Control. The music itself is euphoric, lending us to that feeling of existential confusion. Her voice sways from soothing to disorienting. The production and vocal layering wraps you up in a psychedelic hug, and overall, the project just feels like a fresh high every time you revisit. The comparisons of her work began to fly, with people claiming her work reminds them of anyone from Erykah Badu to Barrymore. And she's personally noted Bjork, Little Richard, Stevie Nicks, and Ella Fitzgerald as huge sources of inspiration for her. Personally, as a huge Billie Holiday fan, that's often who I'm reminded of the most. And to be fair, it's hard to make direct comparisons because SZA has an indistinguishable vocal style of her own, though it does fall into the category of singing in italics or cursive singing. Julie Akinfawe breaks down the history of this particular sound. First coined by Twitter user TrackDroppa back in 2009, writing, "Voice so smooth, it's sick like I'm singing in cursive." The term was interpreted to be in reference to Corinne Bailey Rae and Amy Winehouse, whose nostalgic but modern combination of jazz and vocal fry dominated the late 2000s. And has dominated pop music over the years since. Think Sia, Lorde, Shawn Mendes, and Billie Eilish. The final result is what we now know to be cursive singing or indie singing, a style characterized by diphthongization wherein vowel sounds are stretched beyond what is necessary. And I know this phrase may be intended as an insult generally, but the beauty of SZA's voice is her ability to wield it like an instrument, one that the world has never heard before. She's not doing it in a lazy or unintriguing way. It adds a soulful quality to everything she makes. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for every cursive singer, but cursive is not always synonymous with bad. SZA's lack of proper technique can often work in her favor. She reminds me so much of Billie Holiday in that way. We all may have our own deeply personal interpretations of this album, but SZA laments that her intention was never to construct a particular narrative or even create a commentary on young womanhood. She was simply talking her shit, and like many of us in our 20s, carried some uncertainty about the art she was creating. I didn't even fuck with my own album, so I was confused and almost like angry that everyone fucked with it so much. She told The Fader in 2018. It meant everything I felt about myself was wrong, and it was just like, if that's not the truth, then what is? The process of making art, especially music, is often so much about a feeling. We may not fully be able to see what we're building because we're so up close. And frankly, our art is about much more than just how we see it. We share it for it to be interpreted and digested, and sometimes we're surprised to see what that response is, which seems to be what happened with Control. SZA took a 4-year hiatus between dropping her last EP, Z, and Control, which, according to her, was not intentional. She expressed in multiple interviews that she is just a perfectionist to a degree, and the project kept being pushed back because she'd go in and want to completely change the album that was already done a week ago.
Did you play him your album?
I did the album at the time.
Right.
My album's taken like 3 different forms. So, but yeah, at the time, that was the wave of the album. I don't know why I've just like landed. I think I need to like work in really short intervals. And if I don't, I just keep doing things all over again until it's something completely different. Give me another month and I probably would have had a whole nother album.
I'm sure your label hates that.
Yes. Everyone is tired of me. I just have anxiety. It's hard. It's hard for me to like accept. It's weird. It's like even the heels and like tighter clothes and other things, I'm still just me. So I have a lot of anxiety about the world and like my thoughts and what people think about my thoughts, and like
This constant uncertainty and back and forth is something that many artists struggle with, especially as they become more visible in the public eye. Her sophomore album has not yet been released, with many speculating that she's treating this project in a similar manner to Ctrl, making more changes than she initially anticipated. And she's somewhat confirmed that choosing songs for this upcoming project has been tedious, with her often feeling similarly undecided. And I honestly think when you put out a debut album as good as hers, it can be incredibly intimidating to have to follow that up. This is the clearest parallel I see between her and Miss Lauryn Hill.
He's a Pisces, so it's like he's very streamlined. So when I'm like, hey, I finally have confidence, I think I'm ready, and he's like, but he was right the whole time. It's really, they've always told me, when are you gonna put this music out? They come and they ask me respectfully, they don't press me, even though they should be pressing me. And they're just like, I like this. Let me know when you put that out. I'm like, okay, well, it can't go out without a video, so I guess. And then I start moving around and doing visuals. But then I get panicky when I get to the like, so this is coming out like to other people. They're gonna hear it in their house, in their own space. And I start holding this. And then I get really like nervous. But Punch and Top have never, ever been the type to be like, no, like you just can't do this. Like if anything, they're just like, if you are gonna do it, because I'm so haphazard, I'm like, I have confidence today, I'm gonna drop this today. Because if we hold this another week, it's not coming out for another year. And then, but that's not the way things work. And I've never been signed to like a major label before. I've never had to put anything through a system. Like I've been just dropping on SoundCloud before I got signed to them, and I only dropped one album prior to this. So it was like, and they stole my hard drive from me then. So it's like, if you really leave it up to me, ain't no telling when it's gonna come out, because I have anxiety.
SZA has been very honest about the fact that creating this album was a form of therapy for her, which is maybe why it feels like a poetic diary, with each song offering up vulnerable lyrical confessions, making us privy to her deepest, darkest thoughts and secrets. The first time you listen, you can't help but drop your jaw at lyrics like these.
Let me tell you a secret. I've been secretly banging your homeboy while you in Vegas. All up on Valentine's Day. My man is your man. Her, that's her man. Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. I just keep him satisfied through the weekend.
On songs like Supermodel, The Weekend, Love Galore, Broken Clocks, and many others, SZA shocked listeners with vulnerable stories and lyrics, which is one of the reasons it drew in so much attention in the first place. Out of pure intuition came an integral piece of Black culture and modern feminist aesthetics. There's a phenomenal review on this note in particular, written by Nadia Suda, and they break this down so perfectly. While some may disagree, feminism is a movement that has entered a new stage. Women can not only do anything a man can do, but they can do whatever they want and not apologize for it. Feminism today has seen the resurgence of what's called pro-ho culture. The goal of this ideology is to reclaim a word used to shame women for embracing sexuality. SZA may not know it, but by making an incredibly personal body of work available for the world to hear and others to identify with, she has set the scene for her album to become a track list of anthems for the modern feminist. SZA's music and aesthetics in her Ctrl era spoke to an audience of girls who felt imperfect and unsure, but powerful regardless. With that album, she was so vulnerable in so many ways that are not typically accepted of Black women. From touching on taboo topics like working at strip clubs, being insecure about her body, not shaving her legs, dating other women, and not just being the ideal feminine, her honesty evokes a feeling of community. As much as so many of us felt seen by SZA's work, a lot of people, mostly cishet men, were pissed at the confidence and vulnerability she dared to have as she engaged with hoe culture. A problem reeking of misogynoir, one that they never have with their favorite male artists. As Nadia Suda points out, the unfortunate part of Control is that an album so vulnerable and so unapologetic, soft but takes no shit, is destined to result in backlash towards the artists responsible. Any work of art made successful by empowering women and femmes of color is awaiting an angry mob of men who won't let us get away with appropriating their favorite pastimes, sex, lies, and shamelessness.
You know, I listen to the album and I feel like the album represents for the girl who is dating a guy who has another girl. But like most side chicks do, they catch feelings.
And what song
then they
want
to be the main
Explain
girl.
What song? You talk about Weekend?
The Weekend.
The Weekend's on there, yeah.
What else?
So,
what was the other record? I don't remember the names of it.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only one.
No, it seemed like it's more than that.
And it seemed like
you connected to that because that's the life you live in.
Yeah.
Since the release of Control, the SZA feature is currently one of the most coveted by R&B and hip-hop artists, with her vocals always adding a sort of je ne sais quoi. Pretty much any fan base is elated to find out SZA is being featured on their favorite artist's project. She's since collaborated with Cardi B, Summer Walker, Megan Thee Stallion, Kali Uchis, Doechii, and a few others. She'd get to experience a few full circle moments, like going from writing about TV and film in her songs to getting her song placed in major television shows and films. If you couldn't tell from some of her song titles like Drew Barrymore or Go Gina, or her lyrics referencing Narcos and Forrest Gump, SZA is a bit of a cinephile. A couple of months after the album release, Supermodel would end up featured in Season 2, Episode 2 of Issa Rae's Insecure, which boosted its popularity even more. Issa Rae would go on to ask SZA to create a song specifically for the Insecure soundtrack called Quicksand, which is also a certified bop. The following year, she'd be featured on the Black Panther soundtrack as well, which was executively produced by Kendrick Lamar. There is so much exposure that comes with your song being placed on a feature film, let alone a movie in the Marvel universe. Both of these projects were extremely significant to the cultural zeitgeist of the time. Control is angsty, endearing, rebellious, euphoric, and unladylike. It's light and dark, it's analog and digital. It stands out amongst its peers because it wasn't trying to. The success SZA struck was intentional yet effortless because ultimately it's her who we're coming to hear. Her voice, her lyrics, things about her that cannot be replicated.
But I really realized that, you're the glue in everything you do.
We're all prone to growing and evolving, and artists are no different. SZA is no different. Her next album and era will reflect who she is today, and I'm interested in what that will sound like. Control was created in a special moment, in somewhat of a vacuum, untainted by wealth, widespread fame, and critique. I think that's one of the reasons why it resonates with so many of us so deeply. SZA told the story of a young Black girl in her 20s who was barely getting by, dealing with the emotional chaos of adulthood. So when I pressed play then, and when I press play now, I felt understood. I felt spoken to. I was reminded that we are all very much just trying to survive and have a good time, all while trying to protect the fragile, broken pieces of ourselves. And as morbid as that may sound, it was comforting. She gifted the Gen Z and millennial masses living under a capitalist hellscape a soundtrack that couldn't be a more apt representation of our 20s. And for that, I'm forever grateful. So, what are your thoughts on SZA's debut project? Are you a big Control fan? Because if you are, I see you. I want to give a quick thank you to every one of my Patreon producers who helped make this video possible. If you enjoyed this dissection, give this video a like and maybe hit that subscribe button. I'm very close to hitting my next goal of 5K, which is just unreal. And that's all I have for now. In the meantime, you can find me making something, somewhere, at some point. Bye.
Sometimes, unfortunately, as Black women or as Black people, we're very confined to like the dimensions of perception. Whatever limited perception is most popular. There is Black girls that want to do all sorts of alternative shit and that grew up on Blink-182 and that love Green Day and that are really into nature. I think that was my job, to shine a tiny light onto what other versions of us exist. Whether you're Black, you're white, or anything, your job is to create a clearer lens of humanity for whatever you represent or whoever you